Welcome back, gamer guys and girls, to the D&D Brothers. Today's video, we are going to be talking about group dynamics. So how do you deal with certain situations, or how do you role play well with the people that are in your Dungeons & Dragons group with you? So we're going to be looking at DM's perspective, how to handle some of those things that can pop up and how to make sure that things go smoothly. And of course, the player perspective on what you can do to absolutely, number one, get the most out of your experience and also help other people enjoy the game as much, so you have a stable, strong group that you're dealing with on a week-to-week basis. So I'll start off with describing as a player how to handle situations that can pop up. So first thing that I want to discuss is the interaction with your other players at the table. So sometimes people will think that when you're a player, it's just kind of like listen to what the dungeon master says and then react to it. And there is a lot more to it than that, especially if you want to develop a good ambiance. Is you want to interact with the other players, let them talk about their characters. Some people really like to have full backstories and they want to talk about it. So you want to make sure that that is you're welcoming to people wanting to discuss their characters, their objectives, what they want to get out of the the campaign or the session that you're running. So really important to make sure that you're available, you're open to that, to hear about it, and also that you want to bring some of that from your own character. Really helps your ambiance with, if you've got a good backstory, that you're producing a character that you've imagined and has goals or values and stuff, so that when you're doing that role playing for types of situations, you have a really good foundation for it. You have a really good idea of how your character would respond, how your character would react, how they take actions within the campaign. So I think that's a really important part. And that's where the group dynamics part comes in, because if you're a really open, welcoming player, if you do come across challenging situations, as there's always going to be different personalities at the table. Some person might not like something that you're doing or a way that you're interacting. If you're really open and you're really developing your character and you're letting other people develop their characters, if you do end up with a confrontation, people are going to be more open to resolving it without being upset or pissed off. One of the things that actually happened in our campaign is that when I had started playing, I saw that there was some less experienced players, and I tried to draw more information about their character out of them, get them to talk about it more. And it was taken as I was telling somebody how to play their character, how to, that this is how I think you should be played. And, eventually it started to fester a little bit, that individual was getting a little bit upset on a week-to-week basis because I wasn't stopping. I wasn't catching the signs that maybe I was being too forward, because, I can be a dick. And I can be, I can be a little bit much. And especially, I start to, do it more and more if I feel like it's okay or that's acceptable. And eventually it got to a point where there was a confrontation at the table, where everybody kind of sat back, and me and this other individual basically had an argument about it. But at the same time too, we were both mature. We had our words. We calmed down. It was like, look, we're buddies. We like each other. This is just a conflict within the game. But that was because we were open. We were comfortable. We were mature. And that's how you have to react to that situation. First of all, it is a game. Don't get too angry about somebody doing something. Let them know. I mean, if you need to let them know, in a way that's a little bit more explosive or whatever. I mean, that's not ideal, but it can happen, and it can be the right way to do it. But make sure that if you do have a problem with something at the table, don't keep it to yourself, because it's just going to get annoying, and then you're not going to want to play. Then you might quit the group or something, and it could have been a situation that you could have gotten out of with just a conversation. So try and stay calm as much as possible, even if something's annoying you or something's bothering you. And if somebody comes out and tells you that something you're doing, like I said, when it first got brought to my attention, I was kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to help you. But I realized very shortly afterwards that regardless of what my intentions were, it's not relevant. It's how that person perceived what I was doing. And truthfully, if I felt somebody was trying to control how I played my character in the campaign, I'd be pissed off too. So after that few minutes calming down, being open about it, talking about it, we were able to move past it. And now we're several years later, and I wouldn't let that person leave the group if they tried. So
that sounds a little, terrifying.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're secretly all my mind slaves.
Okay,
this is for my entertainment and my entertainment only. So that's my point about group dynamics, is really keep it in mind that you are going to have situations between players, both good and bad, and how you react to them calmly and maturely will keep your game going and keep you having fun. Like I said, you're not going to avoid them 100%. It's going to happen. There's a group of people. They're going to have their opinions and perspectives. You're going to have to deal with some confrontations, and you just got to be calm and be mature about it, and take a deep breath sometimes is really worth it. Now, I know, had a bit of a struggle like using that exact situation for that group dynamic. So first of all, what do you think is important in group dynamics from a DM's perspective? How do you monitor that? And maybe touch on how you felt about that situation that I was referring to.
So Kyle's touched on it several times in what he was just saying, and whether he says it outright in black and white or he alludes to it or whatever, communication. Communication is your baseline, your fundamental tool to resolve those issues and keep your game an enjoyable, happy experience. Something you want to participate in, something you look forward to on a weekly basis or whatever amount of time, frequency you play. Communication between the players, communication with the DM, both to and from. So the DM has that responsibility as well to communicate to his players to say, okay, you know what, maybe take a step back, maybe, or, listen when they say, listen, I'm having a problem with another player or whatever. You're the DM, right? You're there to run the game, but you're also, in a certain sense, in many aspects, a referee, unfortunately, because you do have that group dynamic that you're sort of playing on, and you're supposed to sort of be withdrawn from everything else, sort of sitting on that other side of the table. In the situation you're referring to, I know my first instinct was to sit back and let you guys hash it out yourself. And I think probably, without trying to pat myself on the back, I think that was probably the best way I could have handled that, because
I think it was, yeah.
You have a very strong personality, and obviously we're seeing that both in the videos and, I mean, we experienced it in the game. And the other individual who was involved in this scenario doesn't always speak out and speak their mind and make clear their how they're feeling about the situation and stuff like that. So when they did, they were at a point too where they'd had enough, right? They had really, like you said, they had misinterpreted your intentions, and it really took a moment for you guys to tell each other what you were saying. And I mean, I've had opportunities where I've had to sort of referee a little bit and say, okay, guys, you know what, we're going to put that aside. We're going to move past it or whatever. But as a DM, I mean, I think that it's my role to encourage you guys to express yourselves, to communicate with each other, to make sure that your thoughts on a situation or whatever are communicated well, and if needed, to maybe add in or clarify something, or maybe I know something that's going on in the background that you guys don't necessarily know or whatever. But it's my role to ensure that that game continues smooth and that everybody wants to continue playing and stuff like that. So if we can't find a resolution at the table in the game, then it's my job, in my point of view, to take you guys maybe aside afterwards and sit down and say, okay, guys, we're gonna have to find a way to solve this problem so you guys can play.
Yeah, if it gets really out of control.
That's it. Yeah, play enjoyably. And I mean, look, there have been situations where, not to us personally, but one specific situation jumps out of mind where a group dynamic really wasn't working for a player who, right or wrong, brought in a guest without really clearing it through the group. And the group's reaction to that guest really upset the player, and the player felt no longer welcome at the table.
Because their guest wasn't welcome.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Right. So from that point on, they ultimately decided to leave the group that they were playing with because it sort of shone a light on a discrepancy in their points of view and stuff like that. And that player was looking for some guidance as to what to do next. And my encouragement was, at that point, is find a group that works or thinks along the same way as you. And we were really lucky because that's it. Our group did blend and mesh more or less as an entire unit from the first session and stuff like that. There was obviously an adaptation period, getting to know everybody and stuff like that. But all in all, it worked out well. And I think finally, I want to touch on that point that you brought up about bringing in that character aspect and learning that how one player is going to play their character versus how another player is going to play their character, and being open to that. Like you said, some people really spend a lot of time doing that backstory development, stuff like that. You did it. One of our other players did it. Whereas we had a player who showed up the night of the game and took a pre-generated character and decided that was their character, and then from there try to sort of glue or fuse a backstory that they had in their mind to this character, and it really didn't work out.
Right.
So we had to readapt that character later on in the game, right? And so we're on to like a third or second or third version of the same character, so that our player can enjoy himself playing the character he wants to play, and still have that backstory that he wanted to blend into his character, even though he doesn't have the time and necessarily the interest to develop his character outside of game time.
Well, that actually is a really interesting point too about that character development and the player dynamics with the DM and stuff like that. Is that you do have that variance on, you know, how interested a person is, how much, you know, they want to put into their character.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
so
a very
that
big
example
thing. Yeah.
of having, you know, we had multiple people in our campaign who showed up, like you said, with multiple pages of backstory, you know, where their character came from, what their motivations were. Jamie and I, for my character, had set up a very serious backstory that had included like future implications within the campaign of things I wanted to explore. And there's a challenge that comes from that, not just from the DM, but also for the player, is that you now have this really interesting story hook or idea to go through, and you want to explore it. But the problem with that is now you're basically giving a lot of attention to that one player. Now you're both interested, and maybe some of the other people at the table are interested in that as well. But it can also lead to people feeling left out, because it's like, well, we're always doing a quest or in relationship to that person's character, and my character doesn't have any of that, you know? Like, and we did actually kind of have that bit of an issue where the player you're referring to didn't have a backstory, didn't know much about his character. So your interaction, even as a DM with him, I remember being a bit of a challenge. So from DMs and players for group dynamics, you need to really keep an eye on how much attention, how much presence everyone's having. As players, make sure that you don't over-dominate the game, and as DMs, it's, you know, one of those things where I think you have to kind of pull it out of some people. You have to, you know, focus your attention in and try and develop something there so that everybody's getting that equal shape, because attention. Because at the end of the day, if you want to have good group dynamics, it's really about balancing everybody's presence in the game and making sure that they're getting what they want out of their experience. Because it's no fun if you feel like you're just sitting there listening all the time.
No,
I mean, look, I imagine there's a D&D player out there somewhere who's like, I just like being present and listening to everybody else. I have no doubt that that exists. But at the same time, too, I think most people want to have at least some kind of
and
interaction.
even our Eldritch Knight, who is this character that we're talking about, you know, I've set aside specific time privately with him to help him flesh out his character, help him develop his backstory a little more, and that's it. I mean, it's a DM role, right? It's part of our job as the game manager or the dungeon master, or whatever, to try and improve a player's experience, because obviously we want the best experience for our players. We want everybody to enjoy themselves, and
people aren't coming back if they're not having fun.
No, that's
right?
it,
So
exactly.
You have a very short D&D group, and everybody's like, that fucking sucked.
That was boring as hell. I can't wait till next week.
Can't wait till
That's it.
I mean, unless their home life is that bad, where they're like, I'd rather hate my Friday night playing D&D than go home. So I mean, that's theoretically possible,
I suppose.
But generally speaking, most people want to be having fun. But, you know, to kind of sum it up, that's where group dynamics comes from, is from a player perspective, watch how you're interacting with the people around you. Give yourself a little bit, you know, try and develop your character a little bit, because if you want to have good group dynamics, you need to be able to contribute so that people are interested in having fun.
And as the DM, look, I'm sorry to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
As the DM, that's it. You want to encourage those people that you see are maybe withdrawn from the group, where you see a dominant personality taking over and directing the group or tending to lead. Look, don't get me wrong. Groups need leaders, right? There's leaders, there's followers, and you're going to have it in every group. Not everybody can be a leader. You're going to need that decision maker. But you also want to make sure that that's it. You're not leaving somebody behind. So you want to go and get that character, whether it's in game and you toss the ball to them and you encourage them either through a question, or you assign a character's an NPC, a non-player character. You assign them directly to focus on that character who's out of the game or you feel is not interacting as much.
That's something you can do as a DM, but as a player, you can do that too. I know on several occasions I've been like, hey, what do you think about this situation?
Yeah, sure.
You know, or you go talk to him. You know? You're the only one that speaks that language, so you have to go speak with him.
Huge tool right there with languages, especially, you know, especially when everybody has different languages, right? When the whole group speaks common, obviously anybody can interact. But when you get that character that speaks Abyssal, you know, and you're trying to deal with, you know, something from the Hells or something like that, then you know what? That's their
great
time to
opportunity
shine. That's it, you know,
to bring them in.
And make sure that's it. As the DM, you do make sure you try and roll those opportunities in.
Sure.
You know, because that's it. You want to bring everybody into the group dynamic.
All right, so hopefully you gained a little bit of insight on group dynamics. It's a very challenging thing, so best of luck to everyone. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it's not going to work. And
No,
something
that's
also
it.
important to keep in mind
Yeah.
too with group dynamics is, sometimes like if it's just not working, it's maybe time to find a different group.
Yeah.
But make sure that you've gone through those steps of really exploring what it is that maybe is a person's finding unsatisfactory in the campaign, whether it be as a player or as a DM. It doesn't matter. You can always have a conversation with somebody, try and include them a little bit more, and really that'll solve a lot of your problems, is people feeling included. I mean, at the end of the day, D&D is all about a group of friends getting together and playing, and if everybody feels like they're a friend and they're happy to be there and they're interacting, then you're going to have a lot less of those group dynamics issues. So keep that in mind. So of course, if you have any questions on group dynamics, on what we think about maybe a particular circumstance that happened to you, and you'd like our opinion on what we think maybe was handled well or not well, go ahead and leave a comment below, and we'll definitely respond to that. And I'll let Jamie finish off the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe down below. Remember to hit that notification button so that you find out when we post new content. We're going to strive to keep the content fresh and current, so we're going to hopefully get some more stuff up in the very near future. And of course, don't forget to keep on gaming.